We turn our attention now on the First Call podcast to the inaugural California Crown, run Saturday at Santa Anita Park. 3 big stakes races under the California Crown moniker, 5 stakes races in all on the program. And we've got 5 million first rewards points that you can hit and split throughout the card on Saturday when you play with BET and Xpressbet on Santa Anita. There's a $1 million point hit and split on the early pick 5 on the card. There is a $2 million hit and split that comes up on the all stakes pick 5. If you can connect all 5 stakes winners on Saturday, you'll split your share of 2 million first rewards points in that hit and split. And there's also a 2-day wager between the California Crown and Sunday's Zenyatta Stakes, a 2-day daily double where there are also 2 million first rewards points in a hit and split. So a lot of different gambling options for you on Saturday at Santa Anita. Be sure to check santanita.com and news.first.com for all your updated information on the California Crown, as well as the California Crown First Wager Guide. At Santa Anita on Saturday, we are going to handicap the California Crown John Henry Turf coming up first in race number 7. We'll follow it with the Eddie D in race number 8, the California Crown main event, $1 million race in the 9th, and the City of Hope Mile wraps things up in race number 10. And again, tournament players, you got the $6,000 California Crown betting challenge coming up on Saturday if you're into the high roller tournament scene. $10 money back special offered on those 3 California Crown races. That means if your win bet finishes second or third and you bet with BET and Xpressbet, you'll get up to $10 back in your account in the form of wagering credits. Jeff Siegel, let's handicap now the California Crown John Henry Turf, named after the great grass runner John Henry. He was a great dirt runner. He ran on anything. 1.25 miles, they'll start down the hill here at Santa Anita, then make a lap of the course proper. How do you see this group of veterans that are very familiar with one another?
Well, that's the thing is, I mean, this is a group that seems to take turns. You can make a case if you had to draw a name out of a hat and say, okay, make a case for this horse. You could. I mean, I've got Cabo Spirit at 30-1, the least likely as far as I'm concerned in the race. But, you know, if you drew him and you had to make a case for him, well, he inside speed, no one's going to go with him. He might get loose in the lead. And, you know, even though he hasn't won a race in 2 years or 3 years, whatever it is, you know, he might get loose. So, I mean, you could make a case for him. But I ended up trying to handicap this race using just 3 factors. Number one, who knows how to win races? Who wins the close ones? And Gold Phoenix can do that. Number 2 is who has proven form over the course, and that's Gold Phoenix. He's won first or second, 6 out of 13 starts with 2/3, so he's generally there. And the third thing is who is pace dependent and who isn't. And Gold Phoenix he's a closer, but he doesn't have to be that far back. So if the race is really crawling, then he can lay somewhere, you know, in the middle. And I don't know whether I made him 7-2 morning line favorite. I don't know whether he's a great gamble because they're all kind of taking turns, but he does check the boxes, so to speak. And I think this is just his third start off, a bit of a layoff. I think it'll be his best start. The one that I really wanted to like, Jeremy, was Balnikoff, but here's the problem with Balnikoff. He's stuck way outside, which you don't really want to be coming down that dog leg, so he's not going to get early position. Number 2 is that he's 0 for 8 lifetime at Santa Anita, so I'm not so sure he's not a lot better somewhere else than he is at Santa Anita. I think that might be the problem with him. He doesn't like the course, and then he doesn't really have any tactical speed, so he is pacing. I think Balnikoff, given a different set of circumstances, you know, maybe a better post, maybe more pace, maybe somewhere other than Santa Anita, would win this race. But I can't go there, although I do expect him to hit the board. So I'm stuck with the other D'Amato, Gold Phoenix. I think there's a possibility that if you look at these fields, you've got a horse like Masterpiece who hasn't been winning, but could. He's going to trip, and Hernandez rides him back. He's our best rider. Dicey Mochara is kind of a grinder. Don't think he'll win, but he could hit the board. It's that kind of race. If you needed the gun to my head, if you needed to make it maybe a pick, I'll go with Gold Phoenix. But, you know, if I'm playing pick sixes, I'm spreading.
Let's take a look at Gold Phoenix winning last time out at Del Mar.
Dicey Mochara in front. Masterpiece turning the pressure on now. Gold Phoenix along the inside. Rock Emperor in the goal down the centre of the track, and Balnikoff getting involved late. They come for home. Dicey Mochara's all heart hanging on. Dicey Mochara, Gold Phoenix down at the rail. Gold Phoenix going to get him. Gold Phoenix got up to win it. Dicey Mochara second. Balnikoff.
If those names sounded familiar, they're all back in the former program as you look at this race, and it was a blanket finish that day. So if you lack confidence in this race, you're probably in the proper mind frame, right? This is a very difficult race to separate them on. You mentioned Balnikov. I do want to say he is eligible for a $2.5 million bonus if he can win this race and then go on to win the Pegasus World Cup Turf in January, part of the California Crown Turf bonus. He won the first leg of that series back on Preakness Day when he won the Dinner Party Stakes at Keeneland. So if you say, well, look, Balnikovs are at the Preakness Stakes at Pimlico, not at Keeneland, of course. Balnikov, though, you say maybe not a mile and a quarter horse. He might be a little bit better shorter, but he's chasing some of that cash, right? And rightfully so. He's run some pretty good races up to a mile and an eighth, and he wasn't beaten far in that Delmar handicap at a mile and 3/8. It just might not be his absolute best trip. But the fact that you could throw a blanket all over these and that they've taken turns beating each other, I just went completely another direction. And I went with number 3 in here, Divan Propos. This is a horse for Phil D'Amato, 2 wins and 3 starts here in the U.S. Just got beat 3/4 of length in the 1 defeat. French import, we're going to find out. I mean, should definitely be successful over a mile and a quarter. Has already won at the trip over the course at Santa Anita back in June. I'm just going with a fresh face, good post position in here in the 3-hole. Antonio Frazu's having a really good year in the saddle. So give me the 3 in here at a little bit of an upset, not a massive confidence play. I don't know how you come up with a confidence play in this one, Jeff.
No, I mean, I looked at that horse quite closely. He didn't quite have the proven form, but he's only had 10 starts. He's won 4 races. He's got enough tactical speed. He's another horse that checks boxes. Now, I made him 6-1. I would gamble on him at 6-1.
Right.
I will, because he's going to draft into a great spot, and he's a progressive horse with further improvement in him. 1 for 1 over the course. I mean, he's another one. The only thing he hasn't done is won a race like this. But if he had won a race like this, he wouldn't be 6-1. He'd be 2-1. So I see where you're coming from on
buy
that.
now. Buy now is what you're saying. Because if he wins this race, you won't get 6-1 again.
He may have more upside than some of the horses who've been knocking around and basically are what they are.
Right.
I mean, they are what they are, and Divine Propos might be better than what he is. So why not?
Sometimes you just call it a default pick as a public handicapper. You're looking for somebody else, and he was the best of the others, the way I handicapped the race. So we'll see how it shakes out. Now, let's go to race number 8 next up. It's the downhill turf sprinters in the Eddie D Stakes. California Crown Eddie D, named for the Hall of Fame legendary jockey, my favorite rider of all time, because anybody who follows my handicapping knows I love the closers. We live and die with them, and nobody was better on a late running horse than the Hall of Famer Eddie Della. Who say so? The Eddie D Stakes down the hill. We expect a tight finish in this one, as you usually do in these turf sprints. The shipper in here gets all the attention, Jeff. Big Invasion. What do you make of this one for Christophe Clement? We saw him at Santa Anita last year run a bang-up race, hitting the board in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. That was on the proper course, the regular circuit. They're back going down the hill for the Eddie D. So while he's been to Santa Anita before, he's never run down the hill. This will be some new turf, if you will, for Big Invasion.
It's a different course, different everything, running on the flat for the hillside course. My favorite Eddie D story before I try to make a selection in this grass grab bag. We had a horse named Prize, of course, and we ran him in the Jockey Club Gold Cup against Easy Goer, thinking because we had just beaten Sunday Silence at Santa Anita, at Hollywood in the swaps, that if we beat Easy Goer, we had a chance to be, champion 3-year-old, even though we didn't run in the Triple Crown. So we went against Easy Goer, and it was one of those, big sandy courses at Belmont, and we got beat maybe 35 lengths in that race. And Easy Goer won by a pole. So we were all kind of disappointed. And then we went back to the barn to make sure the horse, had pulled up well. And Eddie D, who had ridden him, said, "Don't worry about this race at all. Don't worry about it. I pulled him up on the clubhouse turn. He couldn't handle the sand. Forget about it. Just put him on the grass next time out. We can win. We can win. He'd be a better grass horse anyway." So I'm thinking, I'm standing there, I'm saying, well, that's good enough for me. Anyway, next start, he wins the Breeders' Cup Turf. First time ever on grass. Thank you, Eddie D, for that.
Yes.
And I always thought Eddie D would be a great trainer, but he didn't really want to do that. But he could have been if he wanted to. That's how sharp he was. Anyway, so this race, I looked at Big Invasion, and you look at it, he's good enough to win this race if he handles the course. He doesn't have any tactical speed. You really have to kind of settle and make a run. Now, deep closers can win down the hill, but 2 things have to happen. They have to have pace up front, a lot of it, and then they have to get lucky. because you know how that scramble crossing down the dirt, horses fan out. You can't get fanned out too wide, but on the other hand, if you sit in there and hope it opens up, sometimes it doesn't open up. So I don't know whether it's a great gamble, but in looking at that race, I remember his race in the Breeders' Cup Sprint here, really, really good. Again, apples and oranges regarding the course, flat course versus the hillside. But he's in good form. You know, I mentioned, you know, sometimes I didn't mention the jockey, but first time Pratt has always been a big play for me. You know what I'm saying? And even though, you know, he hasn't ridden this horse, you have to expect that he's going to run better for Pratt than anybody else. And so and I think Flavien knows the course, and I think he'll try to drop over, you know, hopefully all the speed horses, you know, cheap speed horses like a horse like Noble Reflection, who can't win, but he can make a pace fast. I hope that all stay in and it allows Big Invasion to have his best chance to win. Johnny Padres is the same way. He is a deep closing horse who pace dependent, but man, if he can get fractions to run at, Johnny Padres can absolutely be dangerous in the final furlong. He's so much improved. He's not quite as fast as Big Invasion is on numbers, but he's very, very good. And if those of you who don't remember Johnny Padres, he was a winning pitcher in the 1955 World Series for the Dodgers. He played for the Los Angeles Dodgers when they played in the Coliseum. And Johnny Padres was most noted for leaving early at the games, during the games when he knew he wasn't going to pitch, to go to Hollywood Park 5 miles away to catch the last race of the day. He told Olsen, "I'm gone. I like something in the ninth." You know, or the eighth. So that's why his horse is named after him. No horse has been better, more appropriately named than Johnny Padres as a racehorse. Johnny loved to play. Him and Don Zimmer were just, I say this affectionately, they were degenerates. I love them.
I used to play with Johnny Padres in an old video game when I was a kid. Earl Weaver Baseball on the computer. Johnny Padres, Don Newcomb. You had like a lot of old teams on there, on the old Dodgers teams. So yeah, Johnny Padres. He's also coming out of the Green Flash, where he just narrowly missed a Motorius, who will skip this race, but expect Motorius probably to be one of the horses for the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. The Green Flash has been a very predictive and positive race towards this Eddie D over the years. One of the stats you can find when you check things out in that first wager guide for the California Crown Day. Other thing, too, of stats in there of note, Flavien Prat, the most successful jockey in Santa Anita downhill turf sprints going back the last several years. Of course, he's based in New York now much of the year, leading jockey in terms of stakes wins this year at Saratoga. But Pratt rides the downhill turf course better than anyone. He's like 22% winner, according to our Bet Mix stats in that wager guide. He teams, like you said, with Big Invasion for the first time. And, of course, Big Invasion, he doesn't need a whole lot of help at this point because he's coming off a win in the Harvey Pack.
Followed by Charging. Our Shot is on the outside. Arzak down at the rail has 6 to make up, starting to mount his bid. And getting to the outside of the course is Arzak. And Big Invasion is widest of all. Final Furlong Super Quest has collared high front. They're head and head for the lead. In behind horses, Big Invasion. Big Invasion is coming with a fierce run, and that's the Big Invasion we know. Running down Our Shot, Super Quest was third in the...
We know he loves Saratoga, and he got that homecoming win last time. We'll see if that translates back to Santa Anita. He's been here before, Breeders' Cup style, like we said. It's whether or not Big Invasion handles the downhill turf course. That's not a question with number 2, First Piece, and that's why I ended up with First Piece. Down the hill, this horse has 2 wins, 3 seconds from 5 starts. Now, he'll turn back in distance. Post number 2, Mark Glatt, Mike Smith teaming up here. First Piece, a horse for course, horse for this particular downhill course, I think. And I like the fact that he's cutting back in distance. You say, well, how do you know the horse will do well cutting back in distance? The best predictor is past form, I think, when it comes to things like that. This horse won the John Shear, turning back from a mile to 6.5 down the hill here. He ran second beat and a half in the Siren Roar, doing the exact same thing, cutting back in distance, going long to short. So First Piece, route the sprint, runs well, loves this downhill turf course. I'm going to take Mike Smith here with First Piece, and that will be my pick in the Eddie D Stakes. He's got some tactical speed. I don't think he's going to be coming from as far out of it as Johnny Padres will down on the rail inside of him. So hopefully Mike Smith can work out a trip there, Jeff.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, he's running against Johnny Padres. They're like the same horse, although
right.
First Piece has got more tactical speed, but essentially from a quality standpoint, they're almost, again, who gets the trip? That's the main thing. They're both capable of winning. So we'll see what happens in a typical grass grab bag down the hill. Love the hillside course races. I know fans love them too because they're so exciting. And they all kind of come together in the final furlong, and then you got a chance.
For more on that California Crown Eddie D Stakes, again, be sure to check out the first California Crown Wager Guide, where Millie Ball has her video analysis, her strategies, and all the stats and trends for that race in the Wager Guide. Next up, we go to the main event, $1 million for the inaugural running of the California Crown. Field of 7 has entered. We expect number 7, Indispensable, to opt to run at Remington Park in Sunday's Oklahoma Derby. So maybe 6 will start. We'll wait for the official word on that in terms of scratches, but I do expect the 7, Indispensable, to come out of the California Crown. National Treasure, the horse who already this year has won the Met Mile. He's already won the Pegasus World Cup. And in the Pegasus World Cup, he was nose and nose to the wire with Senor Buscador. They get a rematch in here, Jeff, and what is turned out to be a pretty quality field. And when you take the 3-year-old Muth and bring him in, it adds some intrigue to this race, because the 3-year-olds don't take on older horses too much in American racing these days, except when they get to the Breeders' Cup. So for this to happen a race early gives us a little bit of a jolt of electricity, I'd say, in the interest. Let's see how good Muth is.
We're going to find out for sure. And when I did the morning line here, I was of the thought that Muth would be favored. And then I looked at the form and I said, I don't see that. I'm not saying he can't win. In fact, I think he will win. But National Treasure, he has some powerhouse races against, older horses. He's fast on figures. He's had 3 of his last 4 starts were triple-digit buyer races. Muth has never earned a triple-digit buyer. So you look at the form and you'd say that National Treasure is probably the controlling speed, and Muth is going to stalk him. It's kind of a blackboard race. The way Muth has been training, though, I know he hasn't beaten older horses, nor has he ever run against them, but he's a developing colt, and this was a terrific work. That colt on the inside is Ultra Power. He's a curling out of Unique Bella, and he won his last start with a triple-digit buyer number. He is a really fast horse, and Muth is laughing at him here. Really. I mean, he's just toying with him. And he's going to never really asked at all. They're not going fast because the track was dull. But now Muth is being chirped to just a little bit. The colt on the inside is being asked to keep up, can't do it. And Muth just cruises the wire. And I'm thinking that I'm looking at the same type of finish I'm going to see in the California Crown, whereas the role of Ultra Power is going to be played by National Treasure. He's going to sit right off a National Treasure, theoretically, and then he's going to have his chance at the top 6 to go by, and I'm expecting him to go by. But he may not go by because National Treasure is good when he's good, and he's training really well too. I don't see the stalkers or the closers having much chance, because I don't think these two are going to hook up, because I don't think Bob Baffert's going to allow that. He's going to choreograph this race, and he's going to tell Juan Hernandez Muth, you don't go after that horse to the quarter pole, and then you can go after him. If you can beat him, great. If you can't, you can't. But I don't want you dueling him into defeat and spoiling both horses' chances. This is $1 million race. I'd like to win it. So I think that's the way the blackboard plays up. And if Muth progressive steps forward and produces a career top number, which I think he will, then I think he can.
I looked at the Brisk Pass performances for this race because of exactly what you're talking about. The way it shakes out, it looks like National Treasure on the blackboard, and then will Muth be strong enough to push by? And when I looked at the Brisk late pace figures, it's no contest. Muth does have much better late pace figures than what we've seen out of National Treasure. And yet still, I ended up picking National Treasure in here. And I think I might end up with it's just the whole lone speed thing. I don't ever want to get back an advantage like that with a really good quality horse, right? A lot of times you'll take lone speed in a cheap claiming race. The horse just gets out there and gets comfortable. They tend not to give back their advantage. But at 1 1/8, this is a real concern whether or not National Treasure at 1 1/8 can beat a top-class horse like Muth, or maybe even Senor Buscador, who's going to get into gear late. Senor Buscador probably runs out of racetrack here, right? I mean, typically Santa Anita at 1 1/8 like this wouldn't be begging for a deep closer like him, but you could certainly see him making a nice run, propelling him forward to the 1 1/4 at Del Mar for the Breeders' Cup Classic. pick. As for the two Bafferts in here, maybe they're not classic horses, and they're both dirt mile prospects. Muth maybe would go towards the classic, but we've never seen him beyond a mile and an eighth to this point, winner of the Arkansas Derby. He's by good magic out of an Uncle Mo mare. They probably would go on to the classic if they were able to run successfully in this race, but National Treasure almost certainly would go to the dirt mile out of this, you would have to think, as last year in the dirt mile, he took right to the wire in that exciting nose photo finish with the great champion Cody's Wish. So you think maybe they're in this together. I mean, they're against each other, but they go their separate ways after this point forward, I would guess, with those two Bafferts.
Yeah, Baffert said that yesterday in an interview that I don't even think has been aired yet, but he expects National Treasure to run in the mile and Muth to run in the classic if Muth performs at this distance against this level of horse up to what his expectations are. And that's what I'm saying is I think Muth will sit and then try to go by. National Treasure will try to win this race and then back up. If National Treasure had won the mile last year, then maybe they would have gotten creative. But he still would like to win a Breeders' Cup race, and his best chance will be the mile. So, but I do think that's the best. I look at Senor Buscador, and I think under certain circumstances he might have a much better chance. Whereas, let's say, for example, National Treasure and Muth were trained by two different people, then they might be more competitive up front. And over a racetrack that maybe doesn't quite favor the closers. It's not impossible to stalk and sit second or third or fourth and win, but I don't want to come from too far back on this track.
Yeah, it just looks like those two 1-2 in some form or fashion here. We'll see how it shakes out. If you want more on this race, be sure to check out the California Crown Wager Guide from First. Our man Eddie Olczyk. Eddie O's got you with the classic analysis for the California Classic. Plus, our whole team and pool of handicappers across the First family of racetracks and properties, all in the handicappers consensus grid, have their top four finishers for the California Classic. So be sure to check that out. I think about 20 handicappers in all giving their opinion of the big race. It's Muth trying to run down National Treasure. That's the way Jeff and I both see the inaugural California Crown. That is our XpressBet race of the week. Be sure to check that out. Sign up for the email newsletter for First Bet and XpressBet each week and get that sent into your email inbox. I'll tell you, I don't try to make hay and value out of this race. I'm going to try to get a daily double from my pick in the seventh race, the Eddie D, into this race and try to build out some value that way. We've got a minor upset pick there with the two horse in the seventh race. So we'll try to connect some daily doubles with the two logical horses there in our race of the week, which produced an $870 return last week. So it's been a really good year in the race of the week space. Let's go to our final race of the California Crown Day card at Santa Anita. 10th on the card. This is not your typical get out race. These aren't Calbred maiden claimers in the final race on the card. We've got the City of Hope Mile Grade 2 company. And Jeff, one of California's top Breeders' Cup prospects in all in this race, Johannes. He has been just a daisy cutter on the turf so far this year. Do you think he keeps it rolling?
Well, he's a perfect 5 for 5 over the Santa Anita turf course. I see no reason why he won't. Beautifully drawn, very favorable pace scenario for him. Training solidly on the dirt. He's a horse that just does what he's asked. I just think that he's going to get a great trip and prevail as always. He always puts himself in the right position, and he always explodes from the quarter pole to the wire. He's really hard to beat. In doing the morning line, which, by the way, for my protection, I want to disclose, and I had to do this last Tuesday, so I didn't really have a lot of time. And they told me they needed it Tuesday about the Monday night. I said, "Oh, yeah, okay, I'll do the. No, we need the whole card. Oh, thanks a lot for telling me." So I ended up making Trickery 8-1. I think he's better than that, honestly. If I could do it over again, I'd probably drop him to 5 because he's got tactical speed, unproven against these older horses, but his rising numbers tell me that he might be this good. I think he could be second, and I think Du Jour from that rail post is going to get a good ground-saving trip. He's another horse that is better at Santa Anita than anywhere else. So if you're playing this race, I mean, Johannes over Du Jour, Johannes over Trickery. I think that's pretty much it as far as I'm concerned. Again, these are high-quality horses that are in good form. Du Jour's form at Del Mar looks a little stale, but he's better than that. He didn't get good trips there. I know he likes it here. So and he's training really well. So 3/1, 3/6. That's how I'll play it. Obviously, Johannes at 4-5 in the morning line. You can single him if you want to play in the pick six or something. But if you're not in that, then that's the way to play the exactas and trifectas, I think.
If he runs like he did in the Eddie Reed, there's no hope for the others in the City of Hope.
Top of the lane, and Balladeer tries to find more on the lead, but Johannes comes breathing down his neck in second. De Jure is on the outside, and Masterpiece the Grey is still in with a shot too. Homeward bound, and Johannes now grabs the lead and sets sails for home. Johannes is the one to beat. Nobody can beat him right now, though. Coming late is Dicey Mo Chera, but Johannes too stylish, and Johannes and Umberto Rispoli win the Eddie Reed very impressively.
Continue that run now to Santa Anita, which is actually his better venue than Del Mar. So
I prefer.
yeah, that's hard to go against there. Johannes, top pick for both of us in this City of Hope mile. That's going to wrap up our handicapping, not only for the California Crown, but all of our races here on the First Call Podcast. You can join us each and every Friday on the First Call Podcast when we handicap weekend stakes races, and we recap all the action on Tuesdays with the It's Official podcast. So be sure to check that out. Jeff and I have hot takes on what we saw over the previous days and issues going on in horse racing. So be sure to check that out each and every Tuesday. You can get that on X, on YouTube, and throughout the different websites with First Bet and Xpressbet. So be sure to check that out. It's official on Tuesday, and the First Call Podcast each and every Friday. Jeff, you've got a fun weekend right there in your backyard. I'll give you the final word this week.
Well, yeah, great racing here. Full card. We'll have an earlier first post time at 12:30. So top to bottom, a really, really good, enjoyable day of racing here. But of course, we'll also be watching all the good races around the country as well. Really a major stepping stone to the Breeders' Cup. We'll see who can step up and become one of the favorites and hit that championship day card at Del Mar in peak form. So good gambling and good luck to everybody, and enjoy the races.
Have a great weekend.